Lee, it just came out maybe an hour ago that Nvidia is putting $100 billion into
OpenAI.
OpenAI.
Yeah.
Now, OpenAI's valuation in the last round was about $380 billion. So
They haven't made a penny, but okay.
now, obviously, this is sort of self-serving because the money is going in primarily for data centers.
Right.
And guess whose chips you need to use if you get data centers. To me, it says two things. One is Nvidia is placing bets all over the place. They're like some guy who walks into a casino drunk and decides to throw money
some dough around, play every game in there.
Intel, all this stuff.
Yeah.
As you know, they've got a huge amount of cash, sitting on the balance sheet. But I'm curious, there are tech companies that never use their own cash. The most famous one is Apple. They never buy anything. They have too much cash. What do you think of this? You got excess cash. What do you think of the idea that you just sort of, I'm going to take my bets and spread them across the industry?
Well, it makes sense. And it's interesting that we're talking about NVIDIA and their holdings with that kind of capital. Clearly, they want to spread it out because you and I remember when NVIDIA was a $3 stock about 15 years ago. We remember it well. And they remember it well. And had they not come up with a faster gaming chip in like 2015, it may have been game over for them. But nope, they hung in there, and boy, look at what they own now. And I think doing what they're doing is kind of what Steve Jobs did. He would go out and acquire companies or invest in other companies to kind of build out the Apple brand and what they were doing and the vendors they were using and things of that nature. And maybe that's what the top folks at NVIDIA think.
I also think it's a smart hedge. I mean, at first, the US government wasn't going to let NVIDIA sell chips to China. Now China doesn't want NVIDIA to sell chips to China. And of course, they're claiming, oh, gee, 2 or 3 of our tech companies suddenly built chips that were just as good as NVIDIA's. And
how they did that.
Well, listen, it's the old Chinese playbook, which is that at some point you learn a lot from the Americans.
Then you steal it.
I hate to say this, but Tesla is the most recent example of that. Is they had #1 market share, built a huge factory in Shanghai. Yep. All of a sudden, there are over 100 EV companies in China, underwritten to a large extent by the government. Now, a bunch of them are going to go out of business, because there are too many. But listen, the EV business in China is now successful, particularly with companies like BYD, because they copied Tesla. And
of course,
NVIDIA has to be worried about the same thing. So I think side bets are also a smart hedge when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We saw, and we had talked about the last time we did some recording about Broadcom, and they came and blew it out, like you and I anticipated they would. Huge revenue gains, EPS above estimates. And it made me think like, there's more than one player in this game. And there's Broadcom, which is AVGO, simple AVGO, AMD, and NVIDIA. And there's really nobody else that can get in and force their way into that club. So yeah, I think it's really smart for him to advance, get a big chunk of chat, get OpenAI and all that, and just widen things out.
Now, I think that the Chinese are, because they've also said that training DeepSeek only costs them, I don't know, 10 cents, when OpenAI's training a full new generation is probably closer to $20 billion when it comes to the full cycle.
Yeah.
So the Chinese are playing a game. The first one is they're lying about how long it takes them to do a full training cycle on DeepSeek. And then the other one is to say, Alibaba just built a world-class chip. And oh yeah, that's right. You're going to get some e-commerce company.
Well, it's either Alibaba or Huawei or, some big Chinese tech company that's, at the verge of toppling NVIDIA. And you're like, okay, well, we'll believe it when we see it, and it won't go into any devices in the West. So better make sure they can be used there.
I'm starting to look at Nvidia as a buy again, not because of their sort of base business. It's not a sell for me because of
You may
China.
not want to buy
I
today.
think
It's
they
up almost 4%. But yeah, I think you're right. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think what they're doing is they're building a portfolio of investments in companies that's a very, very smart. It's a kind of a diversification to businesses that are directly related to theirs.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they are. And again, he's been around, their fearless leader has been around long enough to see that tech can change fast, as evidenced by 15 years ago, the stock was $3, and today it would be 182. And that's, with splits and everything else, and it's gone up like 3,000%. It's been, .com sort of huge. But even the best, streaks can run out. It happens in Vegas. You can be on a lucky streak, but that'll run out. And they don't build those big hotels in Vegas because the house loses, and eventually that money comes back in some way, shape, or form. And he could be concerned about that in the future.
I think he probably is, and it's smart.
Yeah.